I'll be breaking down the basics of reading a script, as well as the secrets of parentheses.
First, you'll find the scene heading right at the top there. It'll have INT dot for interior or inside, or EXT dot for exterior or outside. Or if you're fancy schmancy, you might occasionally see an E/I or an I/E. If the character's in a car and they see someone cross the street through their window, they're looking through a window, then you might go I/E dot car, which leads us directly to the next point, which is the location, where it is taking place. A car, a restaurant, a house, a shed, a park, wherever. Then you've got day, which, whether it's obvious or not, that's the time of day. So, I mean, like, 2/3 of a film is day scenes. They're easier to shoot, it suits the mood of the film, and the default is day. The other third is night. If you need a particular character to not be able to see very well, or fits in with the ambience, like Batman, for example. Very dark character, very dark setting. Again, if you're being a little fancy schmancy, you might go for something like morning or later or sunset or dusk. You've got your abbreviation for Tyria. It's all in caps. Dot, space, location, space, dash, space, time of day. Whenever any of those elements change, inside or outside, location or time of day, that's when a new scene starts. I'm just going to pull up the excerpt. So we've started on page 2. There's the page number at the top there. Oh, there's the page number at the top there, and it's got continued. So scene 2, right. So scene 2 must have started in page 1. And we've got, I'm just going to scroll down to the third scene there. That's perfect. So we don't have a dot. There's no singular dot there. So this is, and obviously on the left-hand side here, you've got that it's scene 3, still on page 2. So in this case, we've got int area, pub, pretty generic, night. So it is happening at night. It's 1/3 of the scenes that we've got there. So inside of a pub at night. Now remember, just because the scene is at night time doesn't mean you have to shoot at night time. You can shoot during the day, you can get blackout, you can, shut your curtains and so forth. You can put on a neutral density filter. Next we have the action description, where the actors will pay the most attention to this. So they've memorized their lines, and the director's giving them one-word adjustments, and now they're reading it and they're rereading it. And they're going through the character's mannerisms. He rubs his hands through his hair. He walks from here to there, and then boom, it says the line or whatever it is. Any new character is always capitalized with their age in brackets written after their name. Here we're given light ringing diminishes as background chatter and clinging can be heard. Kayla, dress, and Calvin, jeans, shirt, and coat, are sitting in a booth with crumbs on their plates as Calvin smiles at Kayla, finishing her wine. So I've got 2 sentences there. We've got light ringing diminishes. Perhaps there was a boxing fight or a phone call on the earlier page. It could be the ringing for this scene though, like ding, order up. And if the ringing is diminishing, we're focusing on the couple, presumably. They could be brother and sister, but let's have a look at what they're wearing. Kayla, it's not always necessary to go, oh yeah, by the way, she's wearing this. But in this scene, the writer has chosen to go, oh, Kayla is wearing a dress. It's probably formal, probably date, and Calvin, season K's.
Her lines didn't have any K sounds, which she thinks is the funniest sound.
Oh my God, my cousin Carl crashed his car, and now he's in a coma at the Kendall Clinic.
Anyways, is wearing jeans, shirt, and a coat. Jeans and shirt informal, all of a sudden the coat formal. If it was just cold, he could be wearing a jumper or a sweater or what have you. Calvin smiles at Kayla finishing her wine. Wine, again, very formal. So if we look back at the previous scene, you don't get much. Phone. No one's talking on the phone. He passes her phone back. She could be calling him. So the action description is intercut with dialogue, which also again suggests pacing, but ultimately left up to the director. Like I said, so the character's name is always capitalized for dialogue, and it's kind of centered a little bit. Occasionally, you might see something like "cont" for continued, and, like just because they ran into the elevator in the previous scene doesn't mean they finished talking. So there you go. Then there's OS for off-screen, which means we can hear the character, but we can't see them. So Voldemort, when he's throwing his voice, Iron Man's artificial intelligence doesn't have a body. Then there's VO for voiceover. So that's stuff like, you typically see it in like nature documentaries and stuff like that, where it's like it's vital to have the penguins on screen, but not Sir Attenborough. Or Spider-Man telling us that it's a comic book movie. Or someone like Flynn Rider, who's going, oh no, like it's creepy now, but don't turn it off, Grandma. It is for kids, I swear. It's for kids. Definitely a kids' movie. Or it is, can be used very, very sparingly. It can be used very sparingly to get across what the character is thinking. Congratulations on using the chapter select this time. Now here's the secret. Actors normally white out, scratch out, or otherwise erase parentheses. And for this reason, potentially useless. But if you're a writer, use it sparingly. Hardly at all. Actors will rely on the director to tell them how to enunciate, what accent, how loud or quiet, and so forth. If you're a director, listen, and listen good. You may want to opt out of the parentheses altogether. However, if the writer has put it in, they've put it in for a reason. It gives you the writer's intent. And it might say something like phone or sigh or cough. And it can tell you, oh, this character's on the phone. They're talking on the phone, not to the person in the room. Or they're getting over a cold, or whatever it is. So it's really for you. If anyone, it's for you. It's also a shortcut for pacing. So rather than putting in a whole new line and saying, oh, John laughed while he spoke, you say John, and then in brackets laughing or laugh. It's a very fine distinction. So in this case, laughing can be, you will never last a week. Whereas laugh could mean, you'll never last a week. Then comes the dialogue itself. Dialogue is essential, to the point, and above all, in character. Words are words. The writer isn't bad at spelling, the character is bad at talking. Or maybe they're just nervous. Yeah? A comma is where the character pauses to catch a breath, to think on the fly, or it's just how natural conversations flow. It should become obvious. You get on your second or third attempt whether the comma is just a comma or intentionally put there by the writer to mean something else. And this will become more natural the more you direct. The ellipses, the three dots, however it's pronounced, is when a character is thinking. They're thinking of what to say next, perhaps they've changed their mind, or pigeon, or they've got lost in the eyes of the love interest. Or perhaps they just finished talking. Full stop is the end of a thought. More dialogue means a new thought. The quotations, a character is saying the title or the name of something, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, or they're literally quoting what another character. You said 2:30. Now, the exclamation mark is for emphasis. This is when you get into your whispers. Especially when the character is in a closet or the space where it makes sense for them to whisper. If you want to shout, you do all capitals, exclamation mark. You emphasize whatever it is. If they're hiding from someone, it's probably a whisper. Like 90% of the time, it's a whisper. And it's like specifically part of they're at paintball and they're shouting way over there to the other side. I think we should take a break. Certainly not in the parentheses. Use the exclamation mark for that. It could just mean the switch of a tone. So if a character's talking to a large group and then to a specific person in the group, so important, intimate. Important, full stop. Intimate, exclamation point. Or this is a lie. Or at least that's what we want them to think. Here's how to pronounce what was written for us today. So Calvin's talking, whoever's hired for Calvin will say that line. It's funny, I've being interrupted by Lewis, who's 21, wearing an apron, carrying a tablet, walks over. Can I interest anyone in some dessert? That's something else I want to say as well. It's important to introduce the characters before they speak. So here with Lewis, you've got Lewis. Great, I know who he is. Lewis is coming up. It's in all caps, so he's about to speak. Not necessarily. He could be mute, or he could have a line in the next scene or page or whatever. But Lewis, he's 21. He's just of drinking age, and this is set in Australia. But anyway, he's graduated uni or whatever. Apron. Oh, maybe he hasn't. Maybe he had. He's doing this part-time. Whatever. Carrying a tablet, walks over. So he clearly works at the pub. So just for Calvin, it would be something like, it's funny, And you'll notice how I stopped. Most actors, I feel like, are trained to stop. They will do exactly what you tell them to, essentially. So it's funny, like, unless you give them the rest of the line, they're going to end exactly there. So what I do is I would go, if it's important he say it's funny, I'll throw in another word there and go I've. And I can cut them off, and then, especially as the director, I can go to the editor and go, hey, we're cutting it off here. And the editor can trim to that point. Trust me, it sounds a lot more. It sounds a lot more like someone's been cut off when you have an entire sentence or even just a flowy part, and you cut it off early. That's more jarring to the audience and more obvious that, they've been cut off than it is to naturally just go, oh, this is my cue, this is when I get cut off. Potentially, earlier on in their career, an actor might slip up. They might trail off a little bit, not intentionally. It will still sound like a cut off, but subconsciously they'll go, "Oh, I get to finish talking now." So it would go a little bit higher. To interpret this script, let's have a look. If it is necessary to say any of this or all of it, with the interior pub night, light ringing diminishes as background chatter and clinging can be heard. Kayla dress and Calvin jeans, shirt and a coat are sitting in a booth with crumbs on their plates as Calvin smiles at Kayla, finishing her wine. She's finishing it, he's smiling at her. It's funny, he wants to tell her something. So either he's really amused that she's drinking wine, which isn't the case, that's obviously not the case. What I think is more likely here is that he can see her drinking the wine and go, oh, I've got something important to tell you. Once you finish drinking your wine, put your glass down and listen and pay attention to me. No. That came out like a high school teacher. But Calvin, we don't know how old Calvin is. Anyway, you could potentially be a high school teacher, but the underlining context here of It's Funny, I've, is Calvin getting Taylor's attention and at the same time patiently waiting for her to pay attention. Hopefully that makes sense. It's Funny, I've, and Lewis comes in with, can I interest anyone in some dessert? Oops, wrong table. I get the feeling Lewis isn't the protagonist here. He's not in this scene. Both Calvin and Kayla are. Ah, look. Here it says she passes him her phone. No point does it say Calvin or Kayla. That's an indicator there that they're the protagonist. It looks as though Lewis is simply interrupting Calvin. In this particular case, it doesn't seem like he has to say those exact lines. He's just getting Kayla's attention when she's ready to give it to him, which is nice. That's nice for him. Nice for her. Nice of him. So It's Funny, that can cut off anywhere. I wouldn't bother, in this particular case, I wouldn't bother giving anyone a different copy of the script. Last is the transition. It is rare, but you can find them. Now, the default is a cut to. So if you're starting a new scene as a writer or a reader, the last scene, a cut to. If it doesn't specify, it's a cut to. But you can have a fade to black, a dissolve. It could indicate the pacing or the tone. If there's a fade to black, it could be that the previous scene, someone died. Or perhaps the two characters are getting quite intimate. And it's a kind of symbolic gesture, just like, oh, let them have their privacy. I kind of add things to it. Could use a crossfade or a fade out just to indicate that those two scenes are particularly similar. Or it could be a bit of a cheeky way for the writer to go, to add in some romance. If any of them, I feel like the dissolve or the crossfade is probably the most romantic of transitions. It's usually a very explicit way to tell the editor exactly what to do. Let's read the whole of scene 3, okay. If you're good with the pause, you've gotten the whole 2 pages. Of this particular excerpt, anyway. Interior, pub, night. Light ringing diminishes as background chatter and clinging can be heard. Kayla, dress, and Calvin, jeans, shirt and coat, are sitting in a booth with crumbs on their plate as Calvin smiles at Kayla finishing her wine. It's funny, Lewis, 21, apron, carrying a tablet, walks over. Can I interest anyone in some desserts? He looks up. Oops, wrong table. He places his tablet on the table, picks up their plates as he talks. I may as well... I'll be back. He walks away. So, what's funny? I know we've only known each other a couple of days now. It continues on the next page. Oh, it's continued from the previous page. What's going to see? You can tell already. Feels like weeks since Tinder, I mean. It's just so much easier with a woman here. It would be, let's be honest. Lewis comes back. This is a rom-com, clearly. And Lewis comes back and grabs his tablet. I might need this. I'd probably start from a wide shot as we get more intimate with the two, to a mid close-up of Lewis. He looks up. Oops, wrong table. Back to a wide shot again. I even might go tracking shot over shoulder, maybe mix with a 2 mid close up, and then in here, this whole thing you can intercut. You can go mid close up of Lewis and a close up of his tablet and a close up of his face and a wide shot of the two of them being mildly embarrassed, slightly inconvenienced, I suppose. He places his tablet on the table At this point, I'd have a close-up of the plates. And if I'd track the plates on out of there. So close-up, track, wide shot. Of him carrying away. He does get a bit carried away, doesn't Lewis? So what's funny, you might track in. You don't want to make the audience dizzy. I think the whole thing here, mid close up. Or you potentially over the shoulder shot. Actually over shoulder, because we've had enough of Lewis. It's not funny anymore. We're intimate. We're intimate. Over shoulder, over Kayla's shoulder, obviously. I know we've only known each other a couple of days now. Feels like weeks since Tinder, I mean. Lewis comes back. This whole thing, the rest of the thing here, wide shot. Let's wrap up the scene. Lewis has more tables to get to. Kayla and Calvin, I think, are trying to be intimate, which I think is the whole punchline of this entire thing. Yeah, that's basically how you interpret it. Obviously, the cuts and angles and stuff are all up to you. I wouldn't try anything fancy with the color temperature or anything like that. It's a very basic. Not a boring scene, but a very simple scene in what I suspect is a simple film. Now you know how to interpret a script, get in touch with a writer or producer, or read that excerpt for your audition over and over again. Fucking nail it, buddy. You got this. Take it easy.